Hi guys, I'm Sai. Welcome to Ace Podcast Nation. On this channel, we have podcasts, interviews, and content on a whole variety of subjects, including mental health, football, wrestling, films, TV, music, conspiracy theories, and more. Please subscribe to the channel on YouTube. If you hit the bell, they'll notify you every time we upload. You can keep up to date on upcoming guests and shows on Twitter, which is at ACEcast_nation. And you can suggest subjects for shows on our Facebook page. Just type in Ace Podcast Nation to the search bar. Today's guest is returning for his second show to discuss some pro wrestling. So I'm happy to welcome back Welsh Wrestling's Kade Callous. Welcome.
Hey, so thanks for having me on.
No worries, buddy. Good to have you back, and glad that we haven't got the same issues we had last time, luckily. So we switched from Hangouts to Skype, which seems to have cured all my issues, which I was having with Hangouts with some people, which is cool.
A little bit stable, yeah.
That's it. No. So you were, when we spoke last time, you said you were sort of on the comeback from an injury. What was the injury that you had? I think it was a shoulder, wasn't it?
So I had a surgery on my knee. I had some of my meniscus removed, which was basically locking up my knee. It's an injury I had for about 10 years. But yeah, all fixed now, fully mobile knee. I guess in the old school mentality of pro wrestling, I just strapped it up and carried on. I did that for about 10 years until I thought, oh, actually, there's medical science that can help me here. So yeah, so now my knee's feeling great. And then as I was training to kind of come back, getting geared up for my first match back, I pulled my back because obviously I've been sat on the couch for about 6 weeks, 8 weeks, waiting for my knee to get better, and the rest of my body turned a bit to jelly. So the squat rack can be a cruel mistress. But no, back's feeling good, knees feeling good, feeling strong, and I had my first couple of matches back on the weekend, which was awesome.
Yeah, so I was going to say you returned this past weekend. I'm assuming it was good to get back into it. What? How did you like? What was your return? Did you just do a match or a couple of matches, or?
Yeah. So basically, I was meant to have my first match back at Barry Memorial Hall, which is a venue that Welsh Wrestling run fairly regularly. But then they also had a show at Trecker Bay, one of the holiday camps in Porthcawl. So just asked me if I fancied doing that. And I was like, yeah, wicked. Get some of the ring rust off me that morning. I mean, the plan initially was to get back to training, probably head down to Dragon Pro and, dust off some of that ring rust. But where I'd hurt my back, I kind of thought, well, if I do training and I hurt my back more, then that's going to push back my return. So if I just go in and see what happens, that seemed like a better option. But yeah, so did the match at Trecker Bay, wrestled Red Nova, one of the Welsh wrestling guys. Felt really good. Maybe my timing was a little bit off, and maybe Red Nova got kicked pretty hard in the face. Maybe. I mean, but no, it went really well. I put a couple of clips, a clip on my Facebook page and my Twitter page at Kade Callous, Kade Callous, British Pro Wrestler. And yeah, so I put clips up of that. I put some clips from my entrance at Barry. While I was wrestling, it felt great. I got home on Saturday night, and it's how I imagine somebody would feel after a car crash. My entire body ached. Because I guess the thing is, when you're wrestling regularly and you've got that constant low-level ache, you don't realise, you just carry on. But when you've had 8 months relatively pain-free, and then you come back and have 2 shows, which was 4 matches, and your soul hurts, like your soul, your very soul
just hurts.
Yeah, that's it. And it was the same Sunday as well. I ached a little bit. But no, reflecting back, it went really well. The whole weekend, the whole kind of comeback thing went really well. And to be fair, I feel properly fired up to do something with wrestling, and it's the first time I felt this way in a long time. So last time I felt really, really honestly fired up to do it was about 2010, 2011, which was when I had my WWE trials and I had some good feedback and stuff like that. So yeah, maybe we'll try that again. We'll see. We'll see.
I think like one thing that we noticed when I brought the kids to watch is that the Kade Callous character stands out as something completely different from perhaps some of pretty much all the other characters. Like you've got like the masked wrestler Majiko, which my youngest son loves, and you've got like some traditional sort of looking pro wrestlers then as well. But the Kade Callous is completely different to everything you see, which is like that's the sort of character which appeals to me. I think. Oh, that was the other thing I was going to say. So come about this week that you also slipped your way into a WWE game via a creator wrestler, which I thought was awesome. I saw you I saw you comment to someone on Facebook, and my kids downloaded it straight away. But there was a couple of Welsh wrestling guys, which this guy had made, and to be fair, he made you quite well.
Yeah, well chuffed with it. I haven't downloaded the play. I haven't had a go with him, but looking at the pictures, amazing. Like he shared a video a little while ago with sort of my old trunks and stuff like that, and my makeup, and I thought it looked really good. It looks like he spent an awful long time. And when I was younger, I used to spend an awful long time trying to make a character that looked like me, and they were always crap. Always, never looked like me.
I was the same. I used to try and make like sort of my favorite wrestlers who were not in the games, but I could never they always look terrible. So I just ended up making like just a random guy. But like you see some of them, I see them on YouTube and social media a lot, and some of them are just amazing. They look better than the actual characters in the game who've been scanned and stuff. So like these guys, they must spend so much time perfecting it. I mean, obviously 2K or whatever have made it so easy to do in terms of people just make them and then they can share them instantly. So a lot of people like yourself get to be in the game. They just don't get paid for it.
Wow. But I guess it's probably worth giving a shout out to Pro Wrestling Dad. I think it's
I was going to say that.
Wrestling Dad on Twitter. He's the guy that made it. He makes a lot of different characters from British wrestling and he does a fantastic job. So if you're into your wrestling games, check it out. See where it's on his Community Creations, I think it is.
Yeah, he's got a YouTube channel as well. I think it's Pro Wrestling Dad. But I'll look that up and I'll put it in the description of the video. But I mean, yeah, he's made a lot of his characters and stuff. They seem to be like British wrestlers, which is good to see because obviously, you've got like all the, everyone makes all like the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega and all the sort of the big American names and the Japanese names and stuff, but they don't always. The British wrestlers, it's good to see him getting a bit of love. And like I say, he's done a really good job. He even updated your attire to your new attire, which you had obviously only this weekend.
Yeah.
So
the day after, I debuted singlet, and the very day after, brand new Kade Callous on there. What dedication!
That is unbelievable, isn't it? I like him, that. So before we just move on to WWE, and well, the Welsh wrestling, is that on S4C now? I know there was talk of it before.
So I know that S4C filmed some stuff and they shared it on their online platforms. To be honest, I'm not up to date with what's going on with that or whether it's going to carry on being an online thing or whether it's going to be on their television show or something like that. I know it was something they were interested in. Whether it comes to anything, I guess time will.
It'd be really good if they could get Welsh wrestling on TV, because I think it's the sort of thing where once you get some eyes on it, it'll bring people in, especially families and kids. So it'll be good, on S4C and stuff.
I think Welsh wrestling would be perfect on a Saturday morning. You know, it's a cartoon show, basically. You know, character and fighting. It's the Turtles with trunks. You know, it's good.
Yeah, yeah, and that's it. I mean, I remember watching like WWE superstars and Shotgun on a Saturday morning as like a kid and a teenager and stuff, and it's just like easy watching, isn't it, on a Saturday morning, no school and stuff for kids. It's the perfect TV show, so it'd be good if that pans out. So obviously, I've seen a couple of videos where I saw you working. So you do a match with Mason Ryan, obviously, who had a little stint in the WWE. And I think you mentioned you would done I think it was. Did you say you were a special referee for Pete Dunne or something like that? I was going to say, who's the like the? Go on.
So Pete Dunne refereed one of my matches during
That's it. Right.
Yeah. That's another little claim to fame, I suppose.
Yeah. Any more like famous or well-known sort of people you worked with?
Yeah. So a lot of the guys on WWE UK. So Dave Mastiff. I did the holiday camps with him. So sort of for 6 weeks, we lived in each other's pockets. T-Bone, Ashton Smith. Wild Boar, obviously, the Lightning Kid, Mark Andrews, Flash Morgan, Webster, a lot of the guys. Eddie Dennis, Eddie Dennis as well. Yeah. A lot of matches with him.
Swansea, I think, didn't
he? I think he's from like deeper, darker Wales, if I'm completely honest, sort of up Ammanford way. But I suppose if you're billing someone from somewhere, you pick a big city, don't you?
Yeah, I guess, yeah. But I mean, I like Flash Morgan Webster. I like his gimmick. I just like the mod. It's, right up that is. But yeah, it'd be good to see the Kade Callous on the old NXT UK. I think I'd be a good fit. So you've got to get yourself motivated and working. But they do the like the UK trials fairly regularly, don't they? Like a couple of times a year. It's just, I suppose it's just getting your name out there and getting in there.
Yeah, to be honest, I think it might have even changed a little bit now because I know they've got that UK Performance Centre, haven't they?
Yeah.
So I'm not sure the mechanism by which people get signed anymore, even. But what I figure is, I work hard, I wrestle lots, and maybe there's a bit of a buzz about my name. Who knows? Strike.
Yeah, I think like even with you, like you, I noticed when I uploaded the first video we did, straight away there was loads of people coming to watch it and commenting on it or sharing it. So like you've obviously got like that base following, and then it's just trying to expand that into like you say, getting your name, sort of people talking, and bigger, like growing that base even bigger. Yeah.
I think, to be honest, right, when people see me do what I do, I'm at least fairly memorable. You know, I'm pretty entertaining. I put on a solid match, and you know, people remember that big Cade. He was something a bit different. You know, so I like to think I strike a chord with people, and I guess it's just about getting more eyes on me, more eyes on what I do, and going from there, really. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Sounds like a plan. So did you watch like NXT and Wrestlemania?
I haven't watched Takeover yet. NXT's the one TV show on the network that I tend to watch regularly, but recently it's just been really busy. So with training and life, I just haven't had a chance to watch much wrestling. But WrestleMania made a conscious effort to watch, and it was like, right, I'm putting that time aside and I'm watching it. And you know what? I really enjoyed it. So considering I'm not up to date with all the stories and stuff, I thought the video packages were cool.
Sorry, you went then. Yeah, I thought WrestleMania was really good this year. It's long. It's like 7 hours. It's a long old time to just sort of sit there and watch it. So like my kids wanted to get up and watch it and stay up and then go to school the next day. I was like, "No, we'll just watch it on Monday." And I think I watched it Monday morning, most of it, but I think I watched it in like 3 sittings just because it was so long.
Yeah.
But it was the best one for a few years, definitely. I think I would recommend watching Takeover because that was just top notch. It was
Yeah.
so good. Just from start to finish, it was just unbelievable show. And with the NXT shows, like, what's that?
All the takeovers are really,
Yeah,
really, these guys trying to make the jump up to the main roster. They're putting it all out, and it's just fantastic to watch. It really is. It really is a spectacle. NXT. I really enjoy it.
yeah, and it's like they do like sort of 2.5 hour takeovers, so it's never sort of too long. You always want more, and like you say, because they're all out, and because the majority of the takeovers are before, like the Saturday or the Friday before the big shows. They want to set their stall out before the big show on the main roster. Just, get people looking at them saying, "Look, oh, so and so's good," and like Adam Cole versus Johnny Gargano in the main event was just sensational, and
Are
I think
both really talented.
so good. Adam Cole's promos they're just unbelievable. And I think if he was a little bit bigger, he'd be he'd be on the main roster last year because
Yeah.
he's got everything you need. And he's got the thing is times have changed as well, like these days. Like I know like you're pretty big, but I mean a lot of the guys now, they're not like they were when we were growing up, where they were like 6'4" and monsters, huge guys. There's and where there is still big guys, but there's an array of different guys, and a lot of the main like look at Daniel Bryan. He's not a big guy, like he's not like, he's in great shape. He's not like huge and muscular, but he's just the way they tell the story. You get people in, and like you were saying, is if you come away from shows and you're invested in the match and the storyline, that's half the battle.
Yeah, well, let's face it, man. Those smaller guys have changed the business. I mean, think the smallest guy that got to the top before was Shawn Michaels, and he's not a particularly small guy, like 5'11", just short of 6 foot maybe. And he's a big dude as well. Like back in '96, you're looking what 230, 240. You know,
Yeah.
big dude. Whereas now these guys that are in and around the top, maybe 5'9",
Pounds, yeah.
yeah, maybe 180, and it's amazing how far it's come because those sort of guys 10, 20 years ago, they wouldn't have got a spot, being beat up by somebody. They wouldn't have got a spot in a squash match. Whereas
Yeah,
now, these guys, they're allowed to show their talent, what they're good at, and more power to them. They've made their niche, and it's there. It's there.
well, definitely. And I think what they've done as well, these smaller guys being pushed to the top, has made the bigger guys have to change it up, and they can't just be like your big sort of lumbering guy who throws people around. They need to do something different. And like one of my favorite guys in NXT, who I think will probably get a push this year, is Keith Lee, because he's huge, but he just does stuff that like I don't know, like a smaller guy would be expected to do. Um, and I think that just it makes everybody up their game because suddenly the big guys have got to change what they do, and it just makes for everything to be more interesting from a story point of view and a match point of view. If you just don't know what these guys are going to do.
Yeah, see, I agree with that to an extent, right? But for me, I think the big guys should be doing the big guy act. The smaller guys should be doing the smaller guy act. And I think every now and then, one of them pulling out something a bit special is really cool. Like, for instance, Kane doing Hurricane Rana.
Yeah,
He's big lumbering giant, right? Everything he does, he's slow and deliberate and powerful. And then boom, Hurricane Rana, everyone goes wild, right? Because it's special. Same way with the smaller guys, they're quick, then one of them does an incredible display of power. A gorilla press, a military press, something like that. Bang, whoa, that's so cool. But I think when it's standard, when your 6'6" guys are all doing Hurricane Ranas and all your cruiserweights are doing power bombs and gorilla press slams, it takes away from both, and it means all the acts are the same.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
I consider pro wrestling to be a little bit like the circus. So if you don't like the clowns, maybe you'll like the trapeze. If you don't like the trapeze, maybe you like the stunt bike riders, that kind of thing. Whereas maybe right now you've got stunt bike riders with red noses on that are also jumping on the trapeze midway through, and and then you just
take
got
away
3 hours of the same. Yeah, you got 3 hours of the same. But no, I think all the wrestlers should be able to go and put on a good show. But I think what go means for one wrestler doesn't mean they're not putting 110% in. It just means they're a different act. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and you want people to be different. If everyone's the same, it makes for a very long, 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever the show is. Like one of the guys I really like is I got his T-shirt actually is Matt Riddle, and I like him because he's different. He's different to everyone else. He's got a different look. He doesn't wear boots, pads. And because like he left the UFC on a five fight win streak, so like he's a legit fighter. And I just like the way he moves differently around the ring. He pulls off different moves, but equally, it's not an act either. He could do some of the stuff that he's doing legitimately. And what I found interesting is over WrestleMania sort of week where they do all the interviews. He's been saying it for a while, but it sort of garnered a bit of attention. Is that he said he wants to retire Brock Lesnar next year at WrestleMania, and I thought about it, and I thought, do you know what? Brock's coming to the end of his career. If they built it up, starting now with these sort of interviews and off the cuff comments, and I think Paul Heyman commented, you could build up this story. If he debuts later in the year on the main roster, it could be like a year-long story, and they could lose one sort of legit UFC fighter and instantly make a star out of another one. What do you think of Matt Riddle and my idea?
Book it now. But no, I really like those kind of slow burn storylines that aren't really storylines to begin with. They're just a seed in people's minds. So people like you saying, wouldn't it be good if? And then, there's the odd little press release or a little comment at some kind of media thing where he's like, I'd quite like to wrestle Brock Lesnar, bro. That's there. And, somebody asks Brock Lesnar and he's like, Matt Riddle's not in my league and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? And then before you know it, after 6 months, you've got loads of media of these guys just talking and being around each other without ever actually looking at each other. So you've got a buzz without really working for it.
Oh yeah, and I think with those two as well is they get the like the ESPNs and the Fox Sports and things talking, because obviously they've had that UFC exposure, and if they start going back at each other, just like you say, just in media and press conferences and stuff promoting shows, they'll pick that up. It's not going to be on their daily news show, but they will pick it up on their websites and their social media. Two ex-UFC fighters exchanging insults or whatever, and then,
so
like you said,
weight class was Rydell?
What's that?
What weight class was Matt Riddle?
Do you know? I can't. I think I want to say welterweight, but I might not welterweight. It might be lightweight. I'm not 100% sure. He's not he's not
Brock Lesnar's weight class, is he?
Oh no. But I mean, you know, not many people are. Let's be fair. I
No,
mean,
no. Brock's a beast.
like a UFC heavyweight, I think it's like £210. But I mean, you know, WWE cruiserweights are £205. So I mean,
Yeah.
Brock Lesnar's huge for any
Brock's like
by any standard.
280. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a massive guy. But I mean, you know, Matt Riddle's not small by any means. You know, he's quite tall, he's quite a big guy. And I think, you know, it's wrestling there. You can sell it any way you want. And I mean, when you've got like submissions and, you know, jiu-jitsu and all this type of jazz, which they're both trained in to a certain extent. Matt Riddle's obviously a bit more trained in like the jiu-jitsu side, and Brock's more of a wrestler, like an amateur wrestler. But I mean, you know, what a story it could be. And then when you, like you say, if you've built that up over a period of time between WrestleMania and sort of the end of this summer, and then all of a sudden, when Brock makes his big return at say SummerSlam or something, and he has a match, if Matt Riddle turns up and costs him the match, or just comes and watches and has a bit of a stare down, it's like bang, you've got it. And then from SummerSlam or Survivor Series, that's when it starts to pick up, or they face off in, you know, in the Rumble match. There's so many ways to do it.
They've already half foreshadowed it with that Cassius Ohno being sparked by him, because Cassius is huge, and he hit him with that kick or whatever and pinned him. So that's instantly saying, you know what, this guy can beat people out the blue, unexpected, bang. So you get a couple more clips of stuff like that happening, bang, 1, 2, 3, bang, 1, 2, 3, and all of a sudden you've got a guy that can beat anybody. You know, because if you can hit your finisher out of nowhere and on anybody, right, they can put you against anyone and in any spot on the card, because you've got a legitimate chance of winning within the world of pro wrestling. You've got a chance, you know.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I mean, it's if whenever they bring him up, it's how he's portrayed, isn't it? If he comes up and his first night on Raw or SmackDown, he knocks or beats whoever, like a big name, like an upper card name, in 10 seconds, instantly he's a butt. He's people who don't watch NXT are going to be like, oh well, he's something special because he's just knocked out the guy who's been at the top of the card for the last year or whatever it may be. And it's how, like I always say, the best example of how to bring someone up as a big name is how they brought Kevin Owens up, because they brought him up and instantly he went after John Cena. He still had the NXT belt. He wanted the US title. But because they brought him in at such a level and he beat John Cena in his first match, it's like, that's your level then. Do you know what I mean? Whereas if you just bring someone in and they're plodding along in the mid cards and not really doing much, you can get lost in the shuffle very quickly. So I think it's all about that first month or two on the main roster is what, and this can be what frustrates me with WWE is like how people or guys and girls get over is dependent on how they're portrayed. They can portray people however they want. Do you know what I mean? So that they can win or they can lose or they can say whatever they want. And I think how they do that plays a big part in, obviously it's down to the performer to perform and connect with the audience and the viewer. But I mean, you know, how you are portrayed on a weekly basis is how the audience will view you. So with WrestleMania, obviously it was a long show, but I mean, do you think it was too long? Like really, like 7 hours is a bit of a commitment, isn't it?
To be honest, right, I think it depends on your demographic, basically. So for guys that grew up watching wrestling in the 90s, the early 2000s, right, where most pay-per-views finished under 3 hours, WrestleMania was a big show at 3.5, right? That's what we've sort of been conditioned to accept from a wrestling show, and to the point where Raw is a 2-hour show in my head. In reality, it's what, 3 hours?
Yeah,
and pay-per-views are long, and WrestleMania is really long. So yeah, I I struggle with how it is, but my kids can swallow it all up, right? So they've been conditioned to a wrestling show's this long, and they can consume that and enjoy it, and yeah, so that's fine for them, and they're loving it, which I guess is why I tend to watch NXT more, because not necessarily the product is better, it's just packaged in a way which I can consume it, you
Yeah,
know?
like it's just an hour, isn't it? So it's just hour, and even the like you say, the takeovers are just a couple of hours. I mean, like WrestleMania was basically like a working day long, and that's a long, long old time. So there was talk afterwards that they may, or they're thinking of putting it over, like splitting it into Saturday and Sunday, and doing two sort of 4 hour shows. Do you think that would work better, or do you think it's better to have it as just one long show once a year?
Um, maybe, or maybe they could do it in two venues on the same night. I'm not sure, but I guess the problem is after 7 hours, the crowd are struggling to shout, right?
Yeah,
Shouting for 7 hours is physically exhausting and emotionally exhausting. And for me, the crowd reaction is what makes something special. So, Rock Hogan, right? Rock Hogan.
that was
You watch that
amazing.
match at the Sound on, it's fantastic. One of the best matches of all time. You watch that match on mute, you know, it's not a bad match, but it's just a match. You know, the
Yeah,
crowd take it from 2.5, 3 stars to like a 5-star match,
yeah,
um,
absolutely.
because it means something, and you know that atmosphere is what makes it special. And I think with a 7-hour show, that's lacking a little bit. And I think also with the arenas without the roof,
Oh, I hate
I,
them.
I think the sound disappears. So
Yeah,
even if the crowd are really, really hyped, it doesn't come across through the television. Um, and not to mention guys that have dark entrances, that disappears
yeah,
as well.
as
Undertaker's
well.
in a couple of years ago, or Bray Wyatts with all the
The scare
scarecrows.
would have
Yeah,
been awesome, dark, and
yeah,
it
look,
just
don't
yeah,
get me wrong,
it sort of
it
lost
wasn't
it.
awful. It wasn't
No,
awful, but it would have been better in the dark.
yeah, I think like with this for this year, say if you'd had like the Saturday 4 hour show with the Kofi versus Daniel Bryan main event in the Saturday, and then had the women's match main event in the Sunday, I think the crowd participation in the women's match would have been where it had been during all the segments leading up to it on TV, because that was the hottest angle, which is why it ended up being the main event. But like you say, after 7 hours, the crowd, they wanted to be into it. They just haven't physically got the voice and the energy and everything to participate and get involved the way they would have. And I think with those two particular matches, like the Daniel Bryan and the Kofi one was very emotional, and the crowd were into it. And when he won, it was like huge pop. So I think by sort of splitting it, you almost would have been able to get the best of both worlds for both matches. I did feel a bit sorry for the women because the crowd was so much quieter, and I just think, like you say, they've just run out of energy. Um, but yeah, and like I think the finish of the women's match, I think didn't flop. I wouldn't say it flopped, but it was a little bit underwhelming after everything they had been through in the build-up. It was like over really quick, and it was almost like, oh, blink and you miss it, and then it was like, oh, was that supposed to happen? It was a bit awkward, but then equally, if Ronda decides to come back, you've got a ready-made one-on-one match with Becky Lynch waiting. So I suppose there is that side of it.
Yeah,
Um, what was your favourite match at WrestleMania, do you think?
I like Batista and Triple H.
It was really good.
Yeah, I cared about both characters. I cared about the build up, and the match didn't disappoint. You know, it was good. It was solid. It was solid, and I was into it. Uh, Kofi and Daniel Bryan, I enjoyed it. It was good. Same way as Shane McMahon's match. You know, it was was pretty good. I enjoyed it. But for me, the Batista Triple H match was the one that when at the end of the pay-per-view, when I thought back about it, it was just like, yeah, Big Dave and Triple H, they still got it.
I enjoyed it. I think I like that they put Brock on first with Seth Rollins. I thought that was a really good start, because if you're not going to have Brock main event, then it fits his character to say, like, no, I want to be in and out and get my stuff done, get my money and go type thing.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a good way to start it, because then you got him losing, set the crowd off in the right sort of the right frame of mind or the right tempo. Whereas if they put Brock over Seth, the crowd might have not turned but been a bit negative, and then it's a battle for everyone then trying to get. I thought it's very unusual actually for WWE, is what they did is they actually gave a lot of happy endings to all the stories, which they don't always do. But growing up, that's what WrestleMania was.
Yeah, it was the end of the storyline cycle, wasn't it?
Yeah,
you know,
it was the goodies finally getting them.
Whatever.
Yeah, and like you say, with when going back to what you said about Hogan and The Rock, the atmosphere before they even touched each other was just unbelievable. It was so loud and so everyone was just glued to it. It was like these two sort of icons. And I was thinking about it the other day, in that how many times have you seen a crowd that hot before people have even thrown a punch? And the only time I could remember it, other than that, was a few years ago when it was the Shield versus the Wyatts, and they hadn't touched each other. They were just stood on Raw on opposite sides of the ring, and you had Triple H telling the Shield to sort of stand down, and they took a step closer and closer, and the crowd was going nuts. And they never, they didn't throw a punch, they didn't say anything to each other. It was just either side of the ring. These two brand new stables, really, at the time. They'd only been around a couple of months. And they only had one match in the end, which is bananas. So so Dean Ambrose is leaving WWE. He let his contract run down. There's a lot of rumors of lots of different acts being frustrated with their creative direction. Sasha Banks has disappeared. She's sort of gone home, and they don't know if she's going to come back. The Revival refusing to sign a deal. It's an interesting time, because obviously in the sort of peripheral, you've got this AEW and the elite people. They've supposedly got this deal with what is it? Not Fox. It's the channel which WCW used to be on. I forget the name of it now.
Okay.
So basically, they're coming up. They're looking to start TV in October. They've got big money behind them. The guy who owns Fulham, his son is like the sort of owner. They've got more money than the McMahons if they want to put it into it. Do you think? I mean, I don't necessarily think that they changed the game in terms of like another Monday Night Wars type of scenario where you've got two companies almost on an equal footing. I don't think that's the case. But what it does do is it's giving all these people who are a bit disenfranchised or a bit frustrated, suddenly they're going to have an option to stay on mainstream TV and get a good check, which means obviously more places that these people have got to work, the better as far as I'm concerned. But also, I'd like to think that WWE will up their game, because they know there's someone just off to the side starting up who can pay these people handsomely to work.
I don't know, man, because TNA was there for a long time, and they had television and they had some money behind them. I think what's really changed it is just how accessible the internet is now. So the pro wrestling business model has changed, so like you've got guys like the Young Bucks, all those elite guys that are making very good money from merchandise, from YouTube channels, from not traditional broadcasting.
Yeah.
So I think being an independent wrestler for the first time in a long time is a legitimate option. Whereas before, guys in WWE, they were doing the business, and the guys on the independents were just guys on the independents. Now, that's an option. So if you've made your name, if you're a Sasha Banks or you're a Dean Ambrose and you want to go and try something else, you can. It's an option.
Yeah, and I think Dean Ambrose is an interesting one because I've read a few things saying he was offered a lot of money to re-sign. Obviously, he's been a top guy for like the last couple of years, so he wasn't on bad money anyway. And he released a promo yesterday, just like a little 30-second video, basically saying he's going back to his old name of John Moxley. But I mean,
breaking out the prison, eh?
Yeah, and the big dog chasing him, which I thought was interesting. So, like, I think one of the things, and a conspiracy theory people will have noticed, is there was as he's walking past in one of the shots, there's dice, and apparently obviously the first AEW pay-per-view is called Double or Nothing, and the icon is dice, but on the dice there was like the a 5 and a 2, I think it is, or something, and it basically matches the date of the AEW pay-per-view. I think I would imagine he's going to go there simply because whilst he doesn't seem like a guy who's completely influenced just on money, I think it was more of a creative thing. He's also got used to a certain lifestyle within WWE, so I can't see him going back to like the very independence, if you get me. I think AEW is probably a good mix of decent money, TV, but also he'll have his creative
freedom.
Yeah, definitely. So speaking of creative, I'm interested in your take on Bray Wyatt's new gimmick. It's just people are talking about it, and people are interested. The first time I saw the first video, I was like, "Oh, what are they doing? What have they done to him?" Because he is one of my favorite guys to watch. And then I watched it another couple of times, and I was like, "Oh, actually, there's a bit of subtleness to this, which I didn't notice first time around. There is like this sort of sinister undercurrent to it."
Oh, absolutely. I like it, right, because to me, it's still the same Bray Wyatt. It's not like he's been completely repackaged and come back as a different name or a different guy. It's like the Bray Wyatt who we've seen for the last few years has decided that he wants to change. And that same Bray Wyatt, who is dark, who is twisted, has somehow come up with this idea that I'm going to be a children's television presenter. And the thing is, those guys are pretty, they're scary anyway because they act childlike. Like,
Yeah.
Hey guys, it's me, Mr. Tumble, and I'm going to take off your face. It's scary. It's scary.
Yeah, they're creepy, aren't they?
Yeah, it's so disingenuous, and that faux smile, and because it's disingenuous, it makes you feel uneasy, and I think that's what he's doing. So as far as the vignettes goes, I really enjoyed them both. I like that Sister Abigail's there as the ventriloquist puppy with Bray Wyatt's voice. I like that. I like the shitty puppets and things speaking with. Yeah, it's cool. It's really cool, and I think Bray Wyatt's fantastic, and he pulls it off brilliantly. Those little shoulder shrugs and little looks, and the little sound in the background, the canned applause. I love all that, and especially at the end when he's like, hey, my little fireflies, all you have to do is follow me. And he goes back to that cult leader, Bray Wyatt,
Just
and
split second, isn't it?
Yeah, and that resonates that little bit at the end. It's like, oh, so now he's a cult leader, and he's taking the children. It's
Yeah.
dark. It really
Yeah.
is dark. How it's going to translate into an in-ring character, I'm not sure. Is it going to be like a Simon Dean kind of over-the-top smiley villain? Is it going to be a straight wrestler?
Yeah, I think what would be interesting is I like when he gets the chainsaw and he saws through the old character, and you just see like a little glint in his eye, and he's got the gloves which say I think heal and hurt. So it's like you've still got that sort of really creepy undertone to it. And I read a couple of places that so you've got the Sister Abigail puppet, and you've got the Buzzard puppet, and there's also a rabbit puppet. So I read somewhere that they're going to bring in like a new stable for him, and it's going to be Sister Abigail is going to be Nikki Cross, the Buzzard is going to be Eric Young, and the rabbit will be what's the guy from Sanity, Big Damo, Killian Dane. So it would be like a new stable for him, but I'm not sure. I don't know if it'll work that way, but then I quite like the idea of those guys getting back on TV. I really enjoy Nikki Cross, and I think she'd be quite a good twist to his stable to not be like just a repackaged Wyatt family. There's enough difference there to if you had $1 billion backer like the Young Bucks and the Elite guys, and you had to start a new wrestling company, and you could pick 3 men, 3 women, 2 tag teams from anywhere in the world. Who would you? Why?
Oh, Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay. So it would just be the top of the WWE. Those are the guys worth the most money. I'd be going for, if I got $1 billion, right, I'd be talking Stone Cold into a 1 more match. I'd be talking The Rock into coming into me for some money. And then I'd be there in the triple threat because why not?
Yeah, absolutely.
As far as women, again, it would be like Charlotte. It would be like Bailey, and maybe Oscar because she's class.
Yeah.
And then tag teams, anyone who's I don't know. Who for tag teams?
Rival, could have Sanity, the Wyatt family, who else? Young Bucks. That's the one thing WWE hasn't done very well, I think, and they've done a huge disservice is tag teams. The Usos, people, they got so many good tag teams that
Yeah,
if they would just promote them as like tag team wrestling could be so interesting and so exciting when it's done right. They never seem to quite commit to it. They sort of do it for a month or two, and then you don't see some of the tag teams for ages. I wish they would just really
tag
show it.
teams, they make a tag team just to split them up and have a feud.
Yeah.
And I guess it's tough, right? Because tag team wrestlers are promoted as sort of half a singles wrestler because they need their buddy,
Yeah.
So yeah, I think there's a space for tag team wrestlers and tag team wrestling. I just don't think it's been done for so long that off the top of my head, I can't think of a big money tag
Yeah.
team. So I'd just pick guys that I liked. We'd get Walbor and Flash Morgan in as the 198. Bring them in. Just stick people together that I like to
Yeah.
put them on a
Certain
show
I
and give them.
suppose.
Yeah.
But do you like the do you watch the NXT UK stuff like weekly or sort of dip in and out?
Yeah, so I try to watch it weekly. It doesn't always happen, and sometimes, like I think I'm about 3 behind now. I'll sit down and watch them on one of my days off, and just kind of consume all of that. But no, I think the guys are doing a really good job. I'm I'm really enjoying it. I think it's cool. I think it's really really cool.
Yeah,
Um,
it's different.
I just hope it keeps going. I hope it, you know, WWE needs content for the network, and the guys need a job. So
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. And I think bringing Walter in has made a big difference to it. I think that's given, like, because he won't sign. He doesn't want to move basically to America because they wanted him for NXT and probably the main roster. So he's signed exclusively to work for sort of NXT UK and then go and do the big matches for the NXT takeovers, which I think is really good for the NXT UK brand because he's a big name in Europe and he's very entertaining to watch. And I don't want to spoil the three behind that you are, but like there's some really interesting stuff which happens. And I don't know if you've got it. I can't remember when something happened, so I don't want to spoil it for you.
don't
But
worry about it.
someone else. So have you got to the one where Cassius Ono has come over?
Yeah, so I've seen Cassius Ono beat El Ligero. Seen that, that's about as I've seen that.
So I think like that's a good name to have over in the UK brand as well because he's a popular indie wrestler, but he's like a big enough name that it'll bring a few extra eyes to the UK show. And so they're giving Walter his
Yeah.
own stable uh, with I think it's a stable from the European Indies
Okay.
of guys that are in WWE now, which is really good. It's really interesting. Um, so I'm assuming that they're going to probably do like the British Strong style versus that stable, maybe. I don't know. But like they've got a lot of talented guys over there now. And I think it's a case of just giving them good storylines and good feuds to get people who are not familiar with them into their work. And I think they've done a pretty good job with the UK one of bringing in guys who perhaps a lot of people don't know, and they've just slowly but surely building them up. Even the ones who are not in the big feuds, I thought they did quite a good job with Eddie Dennis. They just kept him winning squash matches, so he was always on TV, even though he wasn't perhaps he wasn't in the main stories, but he was kept being in it, and he was slowly getting better. And that's what you've got to do. You've got to try and make people care.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's the aim.
And I suppose at
So
the same time they've got to produce a good product so people click on it on the network, you know, because
that's it. Yeah.
they have to justify that £10 a month, you know. And if people aren't watching it enough, if there's not enough content that people are enjoying, they'll just cancel and pick it up at
Yeah.
WrestleMania, which is, you know, their business model. So yeah, man, they're in a position where they got to keep creating good TV shows. That's 205's got to be good and competitive. NXT UK, NXT. You know, it's all got to be good on the network to make it worth it. And
Yeah.
I
I
think
think.
so far they're doing good.
Yeah. I mean, I got to be honest. I get the network purely for NXT at the moment because I don't really have the time to watch like the old pay-per-views as much as I probably would if I was able to. But like I get it because I like NXT and I like NXT UK. And I know there's been talk for years of them like ICW and like Progress or whatever coming on and them moving on to the network as well and them like up in a tier. So you have like the £10 tier of like what it is now, but then you can pay like I don't know 15 quid or whatever, and you get ICW and Progress and whoever else they've got like Evolve and stuff like that. And I mean that to me that would be really good. I enjoy all those. I like ICW a lot. I came across them through Joe Hendry, and have you
Yeah,
seen like his songs, the local boy, local hero, and all that type of thing? It's just
yeah,
entertaining stuff, isn't it? So I mean, from a content point of view, if they can get like companies like that on the network, that's only going to grow what they're already doing, because you have people who buy their sort of pay-per-views or shows on their separate streaming services, who will think, oh, I could buy the WWE one for whatever it'll be, get all the NXT stuff, and I can get this, and this. So I can see them doing that. But yeah, it's an interesting. Social media has changed the game, and streaming has just changed everything, because no matter what company you work for in the whole world, big, small, somewhere in the middle, if you can get a buzz and people talking on social media, people across the other side of the world can get a hold of it instantly.
Yeah.
And it's just changed the game. So hopefully we will see Kade Callous on NXT UK. That's my hope for the next couple of years. So make sure you stay healthy, and we'll see Kade take the world.
Nice one.
Right, guys, go on. That's the plan. So, guys, you can follow Kade Callous on Twitter. Is it @Kade Callous?
Go on.
That's the one. Nice and easy to find. And he's on Facebook under Kade Callous, British Pro Wrestler. You can follow us on YouTube as Ace Podcast Nation. We've got interviews, podcasts, and on all sorts, wrestling, football, whatever you may like. I'm recording a conspiracy theory show tonight, a show on ADHD tomorrow morning, football one tomorrow night, and then another wrestling one Sunday night. So there's loads of videos to come. Check us out on Facebook or Twitter @ACEcast_nation. Thanks for joining me, mate. We'll speak to you again soon. Until then, we are out, guys. Cheers.
Nice one.